Hello and welcome back to Project 380. So yes, there is another car in the fleet of vehicles, and this one's a little bit different. Some of you may like it, some of you may not, and some of you may never have heard of this car. But a little bit of explanation's needed first. I've had this car for quite some time now, and I've been working on it in the background. You know, while I've been waiting for parts for the Mark 1 or the Mark 2 to turn up, as some of them parts are pretty expensive, and this car that you're yet to see is pretty cheap to restore. So yes, I have been working on it in the background, and no, you've not seen any content of it yet. And that's for a good reason. I'm not sure when I'm going to be publishing these videos. Obviously it's published now because you're watching it. But I think right about now it's right between where the Mark II has just started and I've got to do a load of work on it in the background. And the Mark I rebuild hasn't quite started yet. So this is just going to be a little mini series. It's something that I really like doing and I'm really passionate about. No, this car definitely is not going to make 380 horsepower. In fact, I think it will be lucky if we see triple figures. Ever. But I just wanted to reassure you guys, I'm keeping the Mark II, I'm keeping the Mark I. They are still being built in the background, and the MX-5s are definitely my priority. So yes, there may not be any MX-5 content for a couple of weeks, but stick around, I promise those builds are still continuing. But this opportunity was just too good to say no. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the new Mini project car. Introducing mine and my dad's 1974 MG Midget. This car sort of fell into my lap at a really good price, and me and my dad, we couldn't say no. Dad's wanted to do a project car with me for quite some time now, and this felt like the perfect car for us. If you think an MX-5 is small, this is even smaller. It's called a midget for a reason. And as you can see, it does need a little work. There's a little bit of rust, but not too much. It's definitely been stored for a few years, and it was advertised as running and driving. But because it's been stood for a few years, we knew it needed a little bit of work first. Just look at this old retro interior. It's so simple, it's good. After finding out the bonnet latch had actually broken, we finally got the bonnet up, and underneath a 1275 engine and just a nice simple engine bay. So we started off by cleaning down the engine bay to get years of grime and dirt out of the way. Not too many electrics to worry about, so it didn't really matter if everything was soaked. But we really wanted a clean engine bay to start with. It just looks better on. We didn't really know how long that fuel had sat in there, and by the looks of it, there wasn't a lot in there anyway. So we decided to drain the old fuel. Luckily on this fuel tank there is a drain bung. And I'm glad we did drain that. Look at the colour of that fuel. By this point, it was pretty much syrup. And the Mark I sitting in the background wondering why I'm playing with another car. Chart. That's the last of the fuel drained now, and look at the colour of it. And some debris from the bottom of the tank. Only a bit, just so we're out of the... I didn't really fancy working in a puddle, so we pushed the car back into the dry. Handbrake was stuck on a bit. That'll do, yeah? Time to get it jacked up and on some axle stands. Being such a small car, this was actually a bit of a challenge. Before we start the car up, it really wants some fresh oil, as again we don't know how long this has been sitting. While that's draining, I decided to take the air filters off to reveal the twin SU carbs. And the filters didn't look that bad. Everything looks a bit dry and crusty down here, definitely in need of a service. I decided to see whether there was any contaminants in the fuel bowls. The last thing I want is contaminant going through the carbs. And to my surprise, they were bone dry, but right in the bottom of both bowls there was a little contaminant. So I cleaned them up the best I could and put it all back together. Here I'm just checking the diaphragms on the SU carbs do move freely, which they do. Now onto the ignition side of things. So this is what's called a distribution cap, attached to some HT leads, straight on the spark plugs. And I don't know what's going on here, but someone's labelled these up a little bit strange. But time to rip them off. I struggled a little bit with room to get the distribution cap off, then got caught in the alternator. But inside the distribution cap, it looked really clean. I was quite surprised. But those HT leads were stiff as anything, so who knows how old they are. Definitely going to put a new set of plugs in this before we even attempt to start it. Well, by the looks of the first one, they've definitely been in there for a while. All four didn't look too bad, just a little bit corroded. But the fresh plugs look a lot better. Now I was going to service the points and condenser, but I thought I'd see whether I could get the car running first. So I thought I'd change the distribution cap, but ended up buying the wrong one. So the old one's going back on for now.
Not seeing anything obvious, mate.
No. The oil is still slowly seeping out, so time to change the oil filter. Now, it was really tight, and it's a Unipart filter, so that just goes to prove that's been on there for a while. Changed out for a nice new Wix one. The oil's finally stopped dripping out, so I popped the drain bung back in. Dad's putting some nice fresh new fuel in the tank. Now to put it back on flat solid ground. Treating that engine with some nice fresh classic oil, and we did have a little airlock and managed to spill oil everywhere. Only just on the bottom. There was almost no coolant in this system, so I've just added deionised water for now, as I've got a feeling we're going to be draining this again soon. The battery was absolute toast, so the good old Nocco boost pack has come out to play. Fingers crossed this should kick a bit of life into it. Right, do you want to put the choke on? Right, pump the throttle a couple of times. See whether it'll start. Nothing. What about now? Nothing. Give it a go now. That's better, that's fuel pump. Just flick a key a couple of times. Is that you trying to start it? Go on again. Starter solenoid is clicking. Yeah. Nothing's happening at the starter though. Just keep going. So as you just heard, the starter solenoid was definitely clicking, but that starter motor wasn't doing anything. So I decided to put the car in gear and try and bump that engine over a little bit to hopefully see whether I could get the starter motor in a good place. This can sometimes work, but no, it didn't work for us. Give it a go. So now we're trying to bump the engine over, just to see whether we could get a little bit of movement in it, make sure that flywheel's turning, and that it's actually a starter motor problem, not an engine problem. But we had no luck. Yeah. So with no other route to go, it's time to get everything out of the way and rip that starter motor out. So all the distribution cap and HT leads had to come back out. Took off the retard tube that goes from the carbs to the timing advancer. Pulled the timing assembly out of the way.
That's where your attention to detail comes in.
And then struggled to get the starter motor off. And it's a pretty big starter, so struggled to get it out of the space. The starter motor is spinning freely, which is a bit concerning. There's no strange noises or anything. But when I put power to it, absolutely nothing.
9/16.
So since the
Yeah,
starter
socket,
motor has to be
please.
sent out for a rebuild, we thought, why not send the alternator as well, just in case. It'll be good to get it freshened up anyway. And yes, this model does have an alternator rather than a dynamo.
Are you sure? Because something definitely just dropped off. Was it the...
Alternator not looking too bad, spinning freely, just a bit crusty. But since we're now waiting for parts, it's time for the midget to go back into the garage. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. Definitely something a little bit different from my usual content. I know it's not an MX-5, but hopefully you'll appreciate the processes and the depth of a classic rebuild. So stick around to see where this restoration leads to. And again, the MX-5 content will still be coming. So as per usual, like, comment, share and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.